We are now recording. And in respect of everyone that's rocked up on time, let us commence.
Excellent. All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone that has joined us, and good afternoon for those that will be joining us watching on a recording later on. Thank you for being here for our webinar on how Lightyear can help aged care providers thrive in a digital era. Very excited to have you all here. My name's Kendall. I'm a solution consultant with Lightyear, and I'm joined today by Gary Mallett, Head of Sales APAC for Lightyear, and Yasmin Munro, who is Enterprise Solutions. Yasmin's going to be monitoring the chat for us today. So a little bit about myself. For the past bit over 8 years, I've been working with aged care providers in a number of different roles, but most recently with digital transformation, helping healthcare and aged care providers adapt to the constantly evolving digital landscape and learning how to make the most out of AP automation technology that can be delivered by Lightyear. So, Gary, thank you for joining me today, and Yasmin, I appreciate it. Would you like to introduce yourself and touch on any housekeeping rules, etc.?
Gladly. Yeah, so thanks for the intro. Yep, I'm Gary. My role is Head of Sales at Lightyear. Also been working very closely with aged care via Lightyear. We'll touch on that later. We basically found that Lightyear is a very good solution for that sector. There's a lot of headache and pain, perhaps, that aged care providers experience in their processes that Lightyear we've proven is a good solution for. Housekeeping wise, Yasmin's beat me to it, but there's a little chat box that David's already found here, and if there's any questions, please just put them in there. Yasmin's very adept at interrupting us at the right time to ask the question, and we'll answer accordingly. Other than that, I think that's probably it for housekeeping. There are no fire exits, so if anything happens, yeah, it's the end, unfortunately.
All right, I'll start off. The age-old challenges. So we all know in 2021, the Royal Commission released their findings. Huge emphasis on compliance, particularly ANAC, almost to the point that now compliance feels like, to some, it's of equal importance to the actual care of your residents. So as a result, what we've seen is almost a divergent path of expertise required. It's sapping resources. It's punishing to the team you've got, mainly your staff that you've got. They're not passionate about it. I mean, I'm sure there are people passionate about compliance, but they didn't come into the sector to do that. And so many of them just aren't cut out to do it. So you've got to find a way to keep the staff that you've got because they're absolutely gold. So figures released 2 weeks ago showed that between July and September last year, we lost as an industry 6% of all aged care workers across the country. So that works out to be over 10,000 people. On top of that, it looks like we're going to have a 6,000 shortfall for RNs to meet the 24-25 requirements coming, mainly due to the increase in mandated minutes. There was a 15% wage increase last year in June. It was good, but consensus is it's not enough to draw new talent. So why are we losing good talent people? Obviously, there's many, many reasons, but the one that I come across a lot, obviously specifically, is admin. A lot of time it's just simply admin getting in the way of delivering that care and service. And it can be a crushing burden on already stretched teams and businesses, organizations working on tight budget constraints. We saw last year 60% of aged care providers were operating at a loss. That's turned a corner, thankfully. But there was a really good report, excellent, published by OPAN, the Older Persons Advocacy Network, touches on this. They released one annually last year, specifically the detrimental effects it's having on communication, both within your team itself and between team members and your residents. So It really comes down to one word, that the team needs time, and time's getting really harder to find under these circumstances. And the most important thing that you're able to do with this time, and it's a word that has come up for almost 10 years for me now, is to be able to provide dignity, and that requires patience and care. And that's the most important thing that we want to be able to pass on to our older citizens that you're looking after. Gary, you were working very closely with providers during COVID lockdown. Are you able to speak a bit about your shared experiences during that time?
I can indeed. Well, I too was locked down with a newborn child. That was fun. And funny, at Lightyear,
Gary, I'm not sure if you can hear me. Sorry to interrupt. You've just gone silent. I don't suppose you've muted yourself accidentally.
Yeah, he's silent for me too. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine.
Okay.
Gary, I think his headphones might have come undone.
Yeah.
I'll move on and do the best. I've got a pretty good idea of what he was going to say. From his experience, we know that now spreadsheets just don't cut it. You're dealing with a human error rate. Obviously, none of us are fallible. There's a lack of transparency that is needed now. We need centralized data for collaboration and getting rid of manual time-sucking tasks. So at the moment, you've got payroll and roster management, accounting, asset management, and there's solutions now that exist that can help you with all of these. And it comes back to saving you time, which allows you to there's money which can go back into the organization, but also focus on that care and your level of service. On top of that, from a management point of view, you're getting improved data quality too. So better decision making, audit trails, very handy with compliance, obviously. And there's also scalability benefits as well.
test. I've got audio now. Can you hear me?
If we go to the next slide, Gary, I don't know if you've got
Don't know what happened there.
your audio. Yes, we certainly can. Welcome back.
After this one?
Well, we're glad to have you back with us.
Lovely.
If we go to the next slide. Yes, please. Now, specifically, I know you would have mentioned it before.
Yep.
But you worked very closely
Yes.
with Telek-friendly communities
A
and
chap
helping
called
them
Aidan
implement
had reached
Lightyear.
out.
Can you
He'd been
touch on
put
that
onto
experience
us
for us?
through aged care ERP provider Innova, which people on here might know. It was a Sydney-based aged care org that put us in contact with them. And that was really when it was a case of we discovered Lightyear's strength with that industry. So Aidan got in touch. He was CFO for, I think it was 17 different locations across the Tulloch estate, shall we call it? And with that comes a lot of paperwork going missing and a lot of admin that nobody really wants to do but needs to, a lot of reporting that obviously needs to be declared, and trying to do that through the challenges of remote work, essential workers on site. Residents are still sticking around. They're not going anywhere, right? But then finance teams and those responsible for that reporting, they're all working from bedrooms with a laptop on an ironing board, like I was. That was, I guess, the pain. And then rolling Lightyear out across such a large organization and training, to be honest, myself and our colleague Charlie, training what would have been 100+ managers online like this. It's a challenge for us and a challenge for them, but ultimately we got it rolled out, and they've been happily subscribed
Huge.
to use the Lightyear service since. Working Lightyear sitting in front of Innova, those people in the field, be it those people on site in the residential facilities, they're approving invoices on their phones and things. They can find their information at the click of a button. Yeah, that's really what we've got there.
You mentioned
from
training
memory,
a bit.
it would have been
How long did the implementation
from
take at
initial
that time?
inquiry to obviously having a demonstration was about a week. Then they obviously took it back, made a decision, setting up all the accounts probably took another week for a group that size. But really, going live with Lightyear, it's really a case of telling your suppliers, hey, as of date X, if you want to get paid, then start sending all your documents to this email address. Basically, you'll see this in a moment. And then Team Lightyear kind of get to work setting up all the automations and things, and we monitor that for what's typically the first month on a daily basis to make sure the system's doing what it should be, assisting with any questions, bumps on the road perhaps that might occur, but ultimately at the end of an implementation, be it 2 weeks, 4 weeks, however long is scoped, we'll basically have 95% of everything automated, but also we'll upskill a team like Tullix to then self-administer moving forward. So you don't need our help. It's the beauty of automation. Yeah.
Fantastic. Everyone loves train the trainer.
I can
You
indeed,
mentioned,
provided my
you
audio
mentioned
holds
you're
up.
going to show us a bit. Are you ready to
Right.
give a
Good.
a look into?
Here is Lightyear's website. Now, if anyone's
been
found themselves on this session, there's probably a decent chance you've Googled us or found us through word of mouth or something like that. But all the information you need is here to learn a little bit more about us. But basically, Lightyear came around 5 years ago to automate all things accounts payable and purchasing. If you'd like to have a go with Lightyear, you're welcome to click free trial on the website. Setting up an account takes a couple of minutes, depending on which ERP or accounting system you're using. It can be anything from 15 minutes to 45 minutes, maybe just to set it up to your first export. Book a demo, as in a deeper demo than this one. I'm just going to do a very high level sort of flash on screen as to what it is. Let me log in, always helps. Now, as a user of Lightyear, you'd have your own login, and that'd be it. As an employee of Lightyear, you've got 100. So a group like Tullix or multi-site kind of aged care setup, this would be different entities, right? So this might be residential living. This might be like home care. Don't know, Meals on Wheels, whatever services, community services others might use there. Now, skipping over the dashboard, because to be frank, it's going to mean nothing to anyone on here if you've never seen the rest of it. Here's what Lightyear looks like. And here's how, more importantly, here's how Lightyear can save time, money, and general happiness in the care industry. So what's going on here? I'm in the accounts payable module. These are all documents up in panel 1, a bit like an email address, email Outlook client. These are coming direct from the various suppliers, and these have all been emailed to Gary's aged care at lightyear.cloud or something relevant. Okay, you would have your own company name or delivery location, something like that that is relatable to the suppliers. Now, suppliers are told send everything to this address from a go live date. Things start arriving in Lightyear, and Lightyear is taught and then memorizes basically and continues to learn what to do with these. So when I say what to do with them, first thing about Lightyear is data extraction. So I guess first step, Medic Supplies Incorporated, bill number 2513 has arrived here. There's no piece of paper. Now, there might still be a piece of paper arrives with the delivery, but Kendall's not beholden to that, to have to enter it in, scan it, whatever. Lightyear extracts all of this data and more. You'll see it's incredibly detailed. It is very, very accurate. It will get all your usual information, bill numbers, due dates, etc. But then Lightyear goes a few steps further. So if like controlled materials like medicine, perhaps, you're tracking certain product codes on certain stock items, perhaps, or services, Lightyear's going to extract, or can extract, all of this. It doesn't have to, down to the quantity and the unit price. Now, actually, this one's quite a good example in that we've got taxable and non-taxable lines. So admittedly, Lightyear is born from hospitality. So it has been built with a kind of a food, I guess, scenario in mind, where a lot of invoices from, say, a PFD or a Countrywide or a Bid Food or something, they deliver everything, right? It's not just food. It's mops, buckets, napkins, sanitizer in this day and age, right? It's everything. So Lightyear will pick up what's taxed and what's not. It will then code using your information from your ERP or accounting system that it's either cloud synced with, or if it's more of a legacy system, a bit like an Minerva, still server based, you can put your data into Lightyear, and Lightyear will export a file that's readable by that server based system. Now here I've got the chart of accounts loaded. Everything from this supplier has been told to be coded to inventory in this example, but someone at some point has told Lightyear that this last item, this Pegasus product, should be coded to office supplies, and Lightyear will continue to learn that. So back to reporting and data-driven decisions, Lightyear can get very, very granular to the line level across all suppliers as to what you're buying, how much are you paying for it. Bless you, Yasmin, that was impressive. A huge sneeze if anyone missed that. But really, no human has touched this before I clicked on that. For the, let's call them frontline manager or person on site, staff member, if this bill is good to pay, they're going to click this green approve button. We'll do the happy workflow for speed. We won't get into disputes and things. Of course, you can dispute bills through Lightyear. That bill has been approved. It's moved from the approvals tab, which is typically that departmental person saying, yes, that's good to pay, or goods were received, or whatever it might be. And this account's been set up as a two-step approval. Pretty typical of an organization using Lightyear for this session. Review tab is typically Kendall in accounts payable, Yasmin in the finance team, somebody in that role there, right? That person's going to come in here. If they know it's been approved, they're just going to eyeball, double check whatever they need to. So in terms of compliance and best practice process, Lightyear is going to do a very good job of audit stamping all of these activities. So if anything's changed, who approved it, who unapproved it, who sent it back, forth, we timestamp every single thing, and we store all of that information as well as the attachment and the data that's extracted for well above the compliant period that the ATO, for example, in Australia requires. Everything's then going to bundle into this area here called signed off. This is essentially the tray of paper on Yasmin in accounts' desk, where she knows everything has been approved, everything's been checked, signed off by herself or a member of her team, and it's ready to be typed into Minerva, Dynamics, QuickBooks, Xero, MyOp, whatever it is. But now, because we're getting rid of paper, data entry, human error, and all of this is happening in a series of clicks, you can export in bulk all of these documents, again, whether it be to a flat file, to a server-based ERP, or indeed for a cloud-connected app. I'll click off that. That can do that in the background. It's dialing in and pushing all of that data into sort of the point of truth system that also handles payroll, etc., all the rest of it. So with them gone, they are then going to move to the archive and reporting area. For transparency here, the The archive used to be called filing cabinet. And that's really what we replace in existing processes too. So just talking about digital transformation, it's a great example of not just the time benefit and the costs and the efforts, it's also just the space. You're not going to have filing cabinets or offsite storage at Storage King full of boxes of all this paper stuff. Back to the time benefit, if I got a call from a supplier who were chasing me for invoice 12345, I can search for it here, even as a manager on site or Yasmin in finance, and I can go and just like you'll display it here. I can guarantee in this account there's not an invoice 12345. Another example might be to show you an example of a report. Let's just do last month. It's early March. Let's say we're closing off February. Show me everything from February that was coded to office supplies, something like that. If I click search now, it'll revert back to that 3-panel view that we saw back in the approval workflow. And here's in panel 1 all of the results that agree with that query. So these are all in the archive because they've been exported already. They're locked away. They can't be edited. They can't be moved out. It's all very secure and audit trailed. Here's the total of my query. If I wanted to export that, it's the same green button that does all actions in Lightyear. Or if I wanted to drill into something, perhaps, I don't remember getting stationery delivered on the 13th of Feb, I can see, well, what was on it? Go back to the activity here, who approved it, and so on. In terms of speed, if I could put on my, I'm going to show off a little bit hat here. This bill arrived in Lightyear at 3:46:26 in the afternoon, and at 3:46:26, it was extracted, coded without error or fault. And it was presented in approvals. Then later that afternoon, a few minutes later, somebody read it. They didn't even do anything with it, but Gary Demo read that document. So we timestamp truly everything. If supplier statements are a bit of a pain at month end, here I've got an example of a statement from my cleaning company that arrived today. This is a pretty sorry state of affairs, I'll tell you that now. I've got 11 pages of owings here. But Lightyear is going to extract the bill number, the date, and the total from the documents received. But because of the smarts behind Lightyear and its accuracy, it's going to go and find the relevant documents on the statement and flag any that are missing or perhaps a partial match, something like that. And if anything was missing, we make it very, very easy to request copies of those from your supply chain. This will save you, well, if anyone on here is experiencing this pain or their team are, they'll know that this will not only save a lot of time and headache, but also the highlighter budget will probably reduce in future months as well. Back to sort of compliance, spend control. We all know the inflation conversation that's going on at the moment, cost of living and so forth. It's getting tougher for everyone in every industry. But here, if you wanted, you can switch on a purchase order module, which is a similar step of approval where Kendall wants to spend some money. Kendall's superior needs to approve that purchase. And again, we sort of timestamp all of this through to ordering. There's a receipt of goods step. But then when the bill comes in from the supplier, Lightyear will find and match the 2 documents together, or 3 documents together if you are using goods received notes, actually. Really great feature for, I guess, controlling spend before the money's spent, which in growing organizations just becomes more of a problem, right? There's a lot more to Lightyear than that. There's a mobile app that you saw the animation of earlier, going back to the whole teamer in the field, but I can sit here and list features. That's not what we're trying to do today. We're here to talk about why is it good for aged care providers to get involved. Well, if I could summarize, it's a subscription service. There's no contract. It's think Netflix or Spotify or whatever. You get a free trial, give it a go, throw in some of your own bills, some old ones. You don't have to process them, just to get a feel for it. If anyone would like to speak to anyone in aged care using Lightyear already, then please, our contact details are going to be up at the end of this session very shortly. We'll happily put you on to someone But yeah, if you think about how long, if you're doing 500 bills a month across multiple entities, it can add up to a couple of thousand bills a month. That's a lot of data entry. That's a lot of paper to go missing. With everything coming direct to Lightyear, nothing goes missing. Everything then requires an approval from the person on the site and the relevant department. You've got a very strong audit trail. Your team, to Kendall's point, are going to thank you because you've made it easy. It's a single click green button press so that they can just not be in the office punching invoices. They can stay doing what they want to do. And that's, making sure the residents are safe and well and having a good time. Yeah, if I go back to our slides now, I did mention customers. He says, there we go.
Thanks, Gary. Really good insight. These are a couple of examples of who we've already helped. Curtin Heritage Living, they're in the middle, springs to mind. I'll touch on those quickly. Obviously, dealing with paper, many of us are. That's why we're here. It's what we're looking to solve, and the time saved benefits and money that comes from it. Not just aged care, NFPs, hospitals, dentists as well. But Curtin Heritage Living, good example, WA based, absolute state of the art facilities, multiple sites across Perth. David Cox, the MD there, absolutely embracing technology, every opportunity he gets. They've got an AI program that monitors and, as a result, prevents residents' falls. And since they've installed it, implemented, they've had a 50% decrease in falls among residents in the first year alone. So he's got his finger on the pulse. Since they've implemented Lightyear, they've actually doubled in size, and they've had no need to add any more staff to their accounts team to look after the bulk associated with that, which is very, very telling. We've recently completed a case study with them. I might ask Gary or Yaz if you can place a link for that in the chat box, and I invite you to have a click and explore later on. We're almost finished, but should be some very interesting stuff.
I think it is question time, my friends. Despite my audio
Gary,
failing,
I'll pass over to you. It's probably
we've not really
question
heard from
time.
anyone. Has anyone got anything they'd like to ask about, well, Lightyear or anything that we've touched on in general would like to dive into more? We're here to do so. That's my watch telling me that is 2 o'clock, but we can hang on if anyone's not in a hurry. But while we wait for people to type, sorry, you go, Kendall. I think there's a delay.
There was one thing I'll bring up, Gary. On average, so you mentioned, yes, subscription-based service, but what do you think a 200, 300 invoice size aged care, what are they looking at per page?
So I guess, yeah, the pricing model is volumetric.
Lightyear?
It's not per page like a lot of other providers do. It's per document. There's no kind of per user per month, model that gets expensive. We all know those little rabbit holes in tech. Things can get very expensive the more you scale up. Lightyear is the polar opposite of that. Our pricing is on the website. There's a savings calculator on there too. If you did want to have a little estimate without reaching out to us. But really, somebody doing 200 to 300 docs is probably looking at $250 or something like that ish, depending on where you are in the scale, a month. And that's all features, as many users as you need, as many Lightyear accounts as you need, as many exports. Like, it's all very, well, we often get feedback just how remarkable, how transparent we make it, to be honest. We just like, well, again, our background is hospitality, so we like to keep things simple. Yeah, I don't think we're getting any questions here. So Yasmin's had a good Sky for half an hour.
You mentioned the purchase
and
order
that's
module?
amazing.
Oh, I can. I don't. Yeah, like
Would you like to talk about any releases
it's-
that we've
we
got
started
coming
off
up
wanting to
module-wise?
automate accounts payable. That was the big pain that we identified when we were working for a hospitality group. Then we thought, the feedback we got from the Lightyear community, which is now 40,000 plus, I believe, was, wouldn't it be good if you guys did your approvals piece and audit trails before orders were placed? Turns out it was a good idea, because look at what's happening with cost of goods, etc. these days. So there's more control there. Our next big one is staff reimbursement of expenses. And that's probably the first step on a longer journey towards Lightyear payments. So I've seen the first physical Lightyear credit card. There's going to be virtual ones as well. Load your funds, manage your staff's budgets, all of that kind of stuff. That's probably a late 2024 thing, the credit card things. But paying suppliers, foreign exchange, moving money around, but staff reimbursements, we should. My product manager will really be knocking on my door in a minute when I say this, but we should see that by the end of March. The website is up, actually, if you wanted to have a look. We'd love your feedback, actually, before we do launch this thing. But if that's also a pain, again, the feedback we got was, why do I need a subscription over here for AP, a subscription over there for expenses? Why can't Lightyear just solve more problems? Now, we don't want Lightyear to sort of evolve into a big ERP, right? That's not where we're going with it. It's a companion to ERP systems. But certainly we do want to, we want to solve key problems that we know are out there without you guys having to have multiple apps in your tech stack. But anyway, that's probably a good time to call it. We're not getting any queues. So if anyone does have any questions, please jot down our email addresses there. Add us on LinkedIn. Please follow Lightyear on LinkedIn anyway. We're growing quickly. There's a lot of exciting news and things. We've just had some people on the ground in the US, really well received over there. We're based in Sydney, out in Wynyard. We're actually headquartered in the UK. There is Australian support. You'll be pleased to hear on these lands. But yeah, I guess I'll start the thank yous. Thank you very much for coming and joining, and I hope it was of value despite my audio failing earlier. And yeah, don't be a stranger. Reach out.
Absolutely. Thanks, Gary. Thanks, Yasmin.
Thanks,
Thank
Kendall.
you, everyone that joined us. Look forward to speaking to you soon.
Thank you.